Hey YouTube, it's motomattman.
Hello.
Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to do it that way. Had a little issue yesterday. Went to get on the bike, do a motovlog. Pulled the VFR out. Went to start it up and nothing. Battery dead. So, while I talk to you today, we're going to change out the battery. I got some things to talk about. I had thought about taking the Sportster out instead, but I didn't do that because knee's been bothering me. So I decided not to take the Sporty out and, you know, risk something stupid happening. So anyway, what we're going to do today is we're going to change the battery. Well, I'm changing the battery out. I'm going to talk to you guys about a couple of things here. One of the things I want to talk to you about is I mentioned before that I grew up on the East Coast, and because of growing up on the East Coast, you know, I had to deal with hurricanes as I was growing up, and wanted to talk to you about that a little bit, because of the fact that we do have one out there right now. Isis, or I have no clue how the hell you pronounce the thing. But anyway, got a little hurricane rolling around out there in the Atlantic Ocean. So I wanted to talk to you about that. You know, now living in the Midwest, and all kinds of people talking about all kinds of things and comparing hurricanes to this, that, and the other. And, you know, being afraid of hurricanes, which I can understand, and making comments about, you know, living here in Ohio, we don't have to worry a whole lot about tornadoes. I mean, we do have them, but you don't have a whole lot of concern with that, and we don't have to deal with earthquakes or hurricanes or any of that kind of stuff. And then there's some people that think it'd be really cool to be in a hurricane. Well, I'm here to tell you, if I can get this to work right, there we go, that they're not fun. Hurricanes are not fun. And the first thing I want to do here real quick is do kind of like a shout out to my friends and relatives that live in the 401 and the 757. That are having to deal with this nonsense. And for those of you that don't know, 757 is Tidewater, Virginia. It's Virginia Beach and Norfolk and Hampton and Newport News and Chesapeake and Williamsburg and Suffolk and all of that. So I wanted to give a little shout out to them, and I hope y'all are being safe and make it through this okay. The other thing and the 401 is the area, that's 757 is the area code for that area, and 401 is the area code for Rhode Island. And this thing, not as a hurricane but as a tropical storm, is gonna head up there as well. So I wanted to give them all a shout out. But I want to talk to you a little bit about a hurricane, what the experience is like that I've dealt with hurricanes. I should have got my keys. But anyway, as far as a hurricane is concerned, there we go. It's not anything remotely close to dealing with a tornado. And I have a lot of people that talk about that. Oh, I've been through tornadoes. I know what it's like. Okay, there's a couple of things that are really, really different about dealing with a hurricane and dealing with a tornado. Number one, tornadoes last seconds, maybe a minute and a half is how long a tornado lasts. That's not a hurricane. Not even remotely close. Not to mention the fact that the concern with a hurricane, although everybody makes a big deal about the winds, that's not your biggest problem with a hurricane. The biggest problem you have with a hurricane is the storm surge. Okay? Now, the storm surge does have something to do with the winds, but you can have a storm surge with lesser winds. Let's move this stuff out of the way here. The winds cause a lot of damage, but a lot of the wind thing has more to do with how scary the hurricane can be. And by that I mean it's not something that you want to toy with, and the winds can be scary. One of the things with a hurricane is an event. It's not a boom, it happens and it's done. Why is this thing not wanting to close up here? This is irritating me. Get in the little thing here. Of course, me running my mouth doesn't make this any easier. Like I said, a tornado is something that you see it coming, maybe, it pops up, and it's gone. A hurricane, here's how it works. You start off with some bad winds, okay? Some tropical depression force winds. They start off at, 30 miles an hour or something. You start really paying attention to it, okay? And then they start ramping up over hours with the rain. Wipe this off of, this acid off of me. They start ramping up along with the rain. Okay? And they get worse. The winds get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse as the day progresses. And one of the terrible things about the hurricane is just about every hurricane I've ever been through, if not every hurricane I've been through, crap makes landfall in the middle of the damn night. It's pitch black outside. But here's the deal. These winds start ramping up and they get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, one thing that hurricanes do have in common with a tornado is any of you that have been through a tornado or heard about tornadoes, you hear this stuff about sounding like a train coming at you. Okay? You get the same kind of deal with a hurricane, where it sounds like a train coming down the tracks at you. The difference is that train comes in a train, and as soon as it gets there in a tornado event, it's gone. Okay? With a hurricane, you're hearing the train coming at you for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And it sounds like it's getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to you as it goes on. Now, the other thing that's a little bit different is as it's coming and the winds start ramping up, you start hearing things that most people don't tell you about or you don't think about. And one of those things is you can start hearing all of the nails in the shingles popping one by one. Pop, 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 pop. As that thing's coming closer to you. And you go through these different phases what I like to call phases of the hurricane. And the first phase is you start praying to God, and you start praying, let me make it through this. Let me make it through this. Oh Lord, let me make it through this. Keep me safe. Oh Lord, protect me. And all of these things about staying safe during the hurricane and surviving the hurricane. And you go through that for a while until you eventually get to the point where you start then saying, oh Lord, if you're going to take me now. Because it's like, I don't want to go through this agonizing pain of waiting and waiting and waiting and then not making it. Okay? So you go through all of that. And then all of a sudden, as quickly as the first gust of wind started, it stops. And it gets deadly quiet. Because the eye's now over you. So you've lived through this ramping up of the winds getting greater and greater and greater, and the rain coming down harder and harder and harder, and you're hearing the roof and nails popping out of the roof, and the shingles flying away, and you hear trees coming down and branches breaking, and you look out the window and it's pitch black outside, and you start seeing transformers popping all over the place. And that's all you can see out there because the power's out and the lights are gone. Which also means you've got no TV. The TV's gone. So you don't know what's going on out there in the world. You don't know what the heck is happening. And then it gets dead quiet. And you look outside and you can't see anything because it's pitch black because there's no lights whatsoever. And because there's a storm over you, there's no light from the moon. There's no light from the stars. There's nothing. It's just dead quiet. No birds chirping, no animals rustling, no nothing. And then the winds come back. And unlike the beginning of the hurricane, where the winds start slowly getting greater and greater and greater and greater and greater until they get really, really bad, when the eye passes over, when the other side of the eye wall crosses, the winds go from, at the beginning, it goes from 0 to 100 and whatever it gets up to, up to 150 for a really bad hurricane. But let's just say it's 100-mile-an-hour winds. It's a Cat 2. So you're going from 0 to 100 miles an hour, and it takes you hours to get up to that. When the eye wall comes over, the other side of the eye wall comes over, it doesn't go from 0 to 100. It goes from 100, and then it starts slowing down to 0. So it goes from dead quiet to 100-mile-an-hour winds. Not 100-mile-an-hour gusts, 100-mile-an-hour sustained winds. This is the wind is constantly blowing 100 miles an hour, and you have gusts of 130. So you go through all of that all night long. And then you make it through, okay? If you make it through, awesome. I've survived. I've made it through the hurricane. And let's put the seat back on. So you've survived and you've made it through the hurricane. The next morning, you get up, and what you hear first thing in the morning when you wake up is the sound of chainsaws. And because of the fact that the hurricanes hit primarily the southeast, the other thing you have is this overwhelming smell of pine, because there's so many pine trees on the East Coast, especially in the southeast, that the smell of the pine, where the pine trees have snapped off, because they don't typically uproot, because they don't have these wide root balls. They have these narrow root balls and then this really, really long taproot. So they tend to not fall over. They tend, because they also bend quite a bit, they tend to snap off. So you have this smell of pine from all the broken branches and trees and everything else. So you hear the sound of chainsaws and you smell the smell of pine, and it's almost always hot. Even if the hurricane hits in the beginning of October, my God, it'll be 90 degrees outside and there'll be 90% humidity, because you got to remember, these are tropical storms, so they're bringing all this warm air in at the same time. And because of all of the rain, it's super humid. So you're outside in this heat and humidity, and there's no power, so you don't have the air conditioning's not running in the house. So it's hot as all get out. You got no power, and all you hear all around you is the sound of chainsaws, people cutting up the trees that have fallen on their houses, their cars, their driveways, the road, and everything else. And you got the smell of the pine. And those are the things that I remember the most, so much so that the smell of pine, where somebody's cutting up pine, brings me back to the thoughts of hurricanes. Anytime I smell cut up pine. Now, the really good thing, and I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time on this, but the really big thing is the next day, though. The people that have survived, you may absolutely, positively cannot stand your next door neighbor. You guys have fought with each other over whatever for the last 2.5 years. But now guess what? You're the best of friends. Because everybody comes together to deal with it. You know, you start sharing secrets of the stuff that you've done, and how you're making it through surviving without power for days or weeks, or, I mean, I can remember Hurricane Fran, which was not that major of a hurricane, and I lived in the Raleigh-Durham area, so we're way far away from the coast. We were without power for a month, and we didn't have city water, so that meant that we were without water at home for a month. So we would go to the bank parking lot and pick up bottled water, and without having power in the house, my brother and I would take the battery out of, I had a Fiat Spider at the time with the battery in the trunk. We'd pull the battery out of the Fiat, we'd bring it in the house, and we hooked the drop light up to the ceiling fan in the living room and connected it up to the car battery, and that's how we would have light at night. And then the next morning we'd get up and we'd go out, and I'd put the battery in the Fiat, and we'd run the Fiat for a while out in the driveway, charge the battery back up. You know, and everybody be sitting around with their cell phones plugged into their chargers in their car, running their car to charge up their cell phones. And then insurance companies come in, and insurance companies do what they think is best, and they do things like to hand you a prepaid debit card so you can, you know, rent a hotel room, or you can go buy groceries or whatever. The only problem is what are you going to do with the debit card? Because unlike a tornado, where a tornado can come through and a tornado tears up my house and it misses the next door neighbors, it wipes out the hurricanes wipe out whole towns. So you got no bank. You got no bank, you got no stores, everything's destroyed. You know, so, okay, awesome, you gave me this debit card. Now, what the hell am I going to do with it? Ain't no bank, I can go put it in. And even if there is a bank, they've got no power, so the ATM machine doesn't work. What am I going to do with it? I mean, I remember Hurricane Fran, everybody taking their generators during the day and taking them to the local mom and pop's gas station / convenience store, and letting them run their generators to operate the store, so people had a place to buy stuff. You know, but I you know, just some observations. I don't want to dwell on this too long. I will tell you this. I have no fear of living on the coast, even after having to go through the hurricanes. I would much rather have to deal with the hurricanes and be able to live on the coast than to be landlocked like I am now and be away from the hurricanes. I have told my wife and my kids that as long as they live in the house with me, no matter where we live, they will never go through a hurricane. That doesn't mean that we'll never live at the coast. That just means that when they say evacuate, we're evacuating. I've lived through and experienced the night of a hurricane for my last time. Done it multiple times. Starting with Hurricane Agnes way back. Through Gloria and Fran and all kinds of others. But if I ever live on the coast again, when they tell us, you know, that it's evacuation time, man, I'm going to Kansas. Because I ain't got to worry about the hurricane in Kansas. So I'm going to Kansas, and I'll ride out the hurricane in Kansas. Because, like I said, I lived in the Raleigh-Durham area. And for those of you that don't know where Raleigh is, you know, compared to the coast, pull out a map, you know, Google it on your phone or your computer, and take a look and see how far inland Raleigh, North Carolina is from the coast. Raleigh is actually where they normally evacuate the people from the Outer Banks to. And we had water flooding the mall, so much water that it flooded up to the second level of the mall after Hurricane Fran. So, no, I'm not just going to go an hour or two inland. No. We're going to go to Kansas because I know the hurricane ain't going to hit Kansas. But anyway, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. Let's see. You know, I'm sure it's not going to start. I probably got to charge it up, but let's see what happens here. Ooh, we got lights. Okay, new battery, bike front. Okie dokie. Alright, so that fixed our problem there. But anyway, while popping the battery in, I figured it was a good time to maybe chat, talk about the Hurricanes. Softball season is officially over. Daughter had her last tournament of the summer this past weekend. We spent the weekend in Columbus, Ohio for the all-sanctioned World Series. So that's over. That's the good news. Good or bad news, however you want to take it, is Sunday is tryouts and the new season starts. So, like I've told you all before, it's an all year round deal. And she's excited to be moving up in age. For the first time, she spent the last 3 years playing 10U and watching half of her teammates move up while she stayed down. This year she moves up along with the overwhelming majority of her teammates. At least 8 of them, if not 9 of the girls together are moving up. They obviously have to add some players to round out their roster. But they went down there. Unfortunately, they lost in the first day of bracket play in the platinum bracket. They went 3-2 for the weekend down there. 3-1 on Friday and Saturday, which put them into the platinum bracket, which is the hardest of the brackets. They lost first game of bracket play to a team that then went on to the semifinals and lost in the semifinals to the eventual champs. So even though they lost the first game of the day on Sunday, they still had a really good showing. But now it's time for a new season to begin. And like I said, that starts with tryouts on Sunday. But anyway, I hope you guys liked what you saw. Didn't see a whole lot. Changed out a battery while I was running my mouth about hurricanes. If you have any questions, any comments, put them in the comment section. Any questions or comments about changing the battery or about hurricanes or what it's like, whatever, let me know. Again, prayers go out to all those in the affected area. And this stupid thing's supposed to go right up the coast. It made landfall in North Carolina. It's supposed to go up the coast and affect New England as well. Not as much winds, but damage from storm surge and flooding because it's packing a bunch of rains. Prayers and best wishes to everybody in the affected areas. I hope all of y'all stay safe. Make it through it okay. Earlier today, while I was watching the news, I saw that there was at least 1 fatality from the hurricane in a mobile trailer park in North Carolina, and there were a bunch of people missing. I think I saw that 1 more was confirmed to be deceased from the storm. But anyway, hope everybody has a great day. If you're able to get out on twos, like I was unable to do yesterday, make sure you keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. If you like what you see, make sure you click that like and subscribe button and definitely punch that bell so you get notifications whenever I upload any new content. As always, everybody have a great day, and until next time, see ya!